Okay, just popping in because I wanted to have a wee little chat. I haven't done a Learn with Laurie in a really long time. And I'm not even in my fancy office. I'm sitting in the kitchen. So I was gifted a couple of things yesterday from a girlfriend who has no use for such things. So she thinks. And so I was gifted, this is probably backwards to you. I was gifted the Element Encyclopedia of 1,000 Spells. And I was gifted this book, Power Spellcraft for Life, which I have never seen before. I've seen the encyclopedias all over the place, and I have a few of them on a few different topics because they're handy and fun. In the past, when it came to, and I don't know where I picked this up, I used to be very wary of using other people's spell books, like things that other people had written, because I was like, what if they have implanted these spells with like something that will steal my energy? Or what if their intent isn't good? What if their intent in writing these spells are like negative, or it'll make bad things happen or whatever? That was totally fear-based, fear-based thinking. This spell book, Laurie Cabots' Book of Spells and Enchantments, is the first spell book that I think I have ever purchased. I'm pretty sure. Because I like the energy of what Laurie Cabot does. And so I felt comfortable in using their spells for stuff. And also then this thing started happening where I was like, wait a minute. If tons of other people have used these spells, you are tapping into all of the other energies that have been raised around this spell, or the individual spell. It's so very similar to how when I go into a church for other things, people are raising energy and they're not doing anything with it. They're not sending it out. It's just kind of floating around. And so as the witch in the room, I will like gather the energy and cone it out. And usually for, whatever you're in a church for, somebody's wedding or somebody's funeral is almost always it, right? As a witch, that's why I'm going to church. The same thing applies when it comes to spell books, where it's like, when it comes to the wording that's been used, hang on a minute, I feel like I didn't even bookmark anything. There's a bunch of stuff where it's like, say this, do this, say this, do this, and you are copying the same people, or you are copying the same steps that lots of people before you have taken. So I feel like first of all, to have a fear-based reaction to using somebody else's spell book, I want to trust the source of where it comes from. I want to trust how it feels in terms of the energy around it. I need to tell you that these whenever I've had any of these encyclopedia books, they always feel so clean. And by clean, I mean, even though it's full of some great stuff, I've never felt like there's anything kind of sticking to it, or anything in it or on it that is like extra that doesn't have to do with the actual spell. So the interesting thing that was happening with this book is that there was an awful lot of spells that were included that talked about, it referenced the original source of where the spell came from. And so while you're doing these spells, not only are you tapping into everybody else who's ever done a particular spell from this book, cast out evil, extra strength spell. So if you're going to do, not that, I believe that they're, whatever, that's a whole nother story. This is how Laurie is just doing this impromptu. For me to do this spell, even though I am solitary, what's an awful lot of what's happening is I'm tapping into everybody else who's ever done that spell. I'm tapping into the person who wrote the spell, and I'm tapping into if there was an original source that this has come from, I'm tapping into all that energy also while putting my spell work out there. I feel like the biggest thing is just to have no fear. Don't have any fear because fear lets it in, and fear lets it get a little bit wiggly, right? There is the whole thing where for years and years I wrote my own dang spells and I hid the words. The words the words would go into my book of shadows and I didn't share it, and etc., etc. So I really do believe that there's some great stuff in having your own mysteries and having your own spell work and wording it yourself. But when it comes to, if you are playing around with spells that you found in books, to tap into what's positive, tap into energy that maybe is still floating out there with it, tap into like the source of where it came from, and that will help boost your stuff. And that's just my opinion from one witch to another. This book has some hexing going on in it. It's got and I feel like as a witch, you got to at least know how to hex in order to know how to heal, right? It's the yin and yang of it. It's like only looking at the light stuff and never dealing with your shadow stuff. And if that's where you are, that's super cool. Once upon a time, that's where I was also. Right? I just was like, love and light! Light on everything! This book is the threefold law is totally a Wiccan thing. It's not really a witchcraft thing. And if what you're doing instead of hexing, it also goes into returning the energy from where it came from. And if you're going to pull a hex, the only real warning, it kind of goes if you're going to pull a hex, and it's just a hex for hex sake. If they realize something's going on, it might come back. So make sure that whatever you're doing is warranted and blah, blah, blah. But there's no fear-based stuff in here about that. And honestly, I can't remember what Laurie Cabot has to say about that. But all of hers, I adore all of her stuff. That's all. I think she's lovely. And I think that she's done wonderful, wonderful work in terms of making witchcraft, not scary and still maintaining the mystery of it. Anyway, Pam says, I have so much to learn and it's exhausting but exciting. Little baby steps at a time, Pam. Little tiny baby steps at a time. And be sovereign to yourself, right? Nobody else can really tell you they can give you advice. I can give you all the advice in the world, and I can teach you what I know. Ultimately, you've got to take it and put it in your own back pocket and go, this is what I'm going to do with it, and this is how it's going to work for me. So anyway, got some spell books, wanted to talk about spell books, thought it was really, really funny because once upon a time I was like, no spell books shall cross this threshold, because I didn't want anybody else's words in my mouth. And so really now I'm just kind of like, there's one or two books that I've seen that I'm like, oh, those words are never going to be in my mouth, because I don't like I don't like what the author is or who they stand for or what their energy is, right? But sometimes you get your hands on stuff and you go, ooh, that's good. And you can take it and you can change stuff a little bit, but some of these were like, that's easy. I would just do it just like that. Holy stones, activating a gemstone, all kinds of really great stuff in this one. Anyway, this looks like this spent some time in somebody's backseat of a car, and I'm really kind of pleased with the energy within them. Okay, that was just a quick impromptu. I'm making kombucha and just wanted to have a chat with you about these books that I got before I put them on my shelf. Let me know what your thoughts are on spell books by other people. If you follow them, if you've used spells by other people, or if you are a hardcore, like I used to be a hardcore, I write my own damn spells and nobody can know what they say. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow for Funday Friday. I don't know what time yet because I've been lazy, but I'll make an event.